first reaction when you won the semi-final versus when you won the third place for the finals? What are these two reactions you have?
Like a lot of people have been asking me about the first reaction, and I've been telling them the same story. Uh, Actually, I wasn't aware that the result has been announced because on the screen it was another program, so we were waiting for the announcement to be made. So when my name was being shown on the screen, I thought it was for the other program. So I was sitting still and I thought to myself, no, I didn't sign up for this program. Probably is a typo. I just gotta wait. And everyone beside me, all the other finalists, they were pushing me and they were like telling me, Alan, that's you, get up. And I was like, why do I need to get up? And I said, you got it, you won. So that was the reason why it took slightly longer to get out onto the stage and receive the award. So I didn't have much time to process all the emotions because after receiving my award, I was standing on the stage while waiting for the first runner up and the champion to be announced. So it was very surreal. It went very, very fast. There was not much time to process everything that was going on.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. You just mentioned something that is very important in life and in public speaking,
Mhm.
emotions, the emotions that you were feeling. And also, you mentioned the second place and the third place. So, after you were called out as the third place winner,
Mhm.
did you start guessing who the second and first place could be, or what was going on in your mind when you were standing outside on the stage?
So standing at the side of the stage, I was holding my trophy,
Yeah.
and all I could hear were people cheering, and then they were making an announcement, the first runner up, and I was still processing it because in my mind I was thinking, oh, who could it be? Could it be the speakers that were before me? I had someone in my mind, and I thought, okay, could it be them? And it did. So I felt great. I felt happy for them as well. I mean, all the speeches were great, and of course we how should I put this? I was just constantly staring at my trophy and staring at the audience, trophy, audience, and the only question that went through my mind was, did this just happen? That was it.
That's good. That's a good emotion. Now, let's move to your friends, family, Toastmasters, supporters. How did people start reacting to you immediately you won and things like that?
My wife was in the audience. She was there with my district leaders as well. So there were probably about 4 or 5 of them that knew me personally. So you could hear very distinctively where those cheer came from. Of course, everyone was
Yeah,
cheering, but you could
yeah.
hear them shouting on top of their lungs. And I was like, okay, that's them, that's them. And it felt good because my wife had been with me throughout the last few months, and she was there with me for the semifinals and the finals as well. So I'm glad she was by my side when the result was being announced. I didn't have time to check on my phone because I left my phone on the chair,
Mhm.
so I could only look at it after everything was done. But once I have access to my phone, all the messages came in, and it was, I'm trying to find the right word for it. I think I felt relief. Probably
Yeah.
that would be a good word. I felt relief that I was able to bring back something for my district, for my families and friends as well. Um, it kind of like felt like it is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible. And
Mhm.
the messages came in, and I just started replying all those text messages. Um, it was quite busy then. But when things finally settled down, I had a good chat with my wife, and we were still talking about how things were aligning this time
Yeah.
around because it just
Mhm.
happened. It just happened.
Wow, wow, wow. That's really happy. Thank you for joining us, our guest again. Let us know where you're joining us from. Put in the comments, and also if you have question for our guest, please put it in the chat from wherever you're joining us from. One of the things, because I've competed before, not at the level that you have. I'm not as proficient as you as you are, but when I go to contests like that, and I finish my speech, international speech, for example, I usually start thinking, did I place? I'm trying to like think, how much did I perform compared to others? Did you watch every other person's speech? And after you delivered your speech, how did you feel about your own speech compared to what you heard?
I was the last contestant, so I was able to hear the first five contestants, and by the time it was a 6 and 7, I had to go to the backstage to get myself mic'd up. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to listen to the two speeches before me. But from the first five contestants, I was actually inspired by them.
Yeah.
Because they were doing amazing, they were doing great, and I feed off their energy. I felt inspired, I felt motivated, and the environment itself is just so supportive that you feel like you can give your best and you could try and push a little bit outside of your comfort zone and say, I'm going to go all out. So at the backstage, while waiting for my name to be called, I was pretty excited. Once my name was being announced, going up, not nervous, but I think I was looking forward for the opportunity to speak in front of everyone. Once the speech was completed, because I was the last speaker, there wasn't much time to reflect on it. We were already getting ready at the backstage with all the other finalists, getting to enter the stage again in our choo-choo train, which we were practicing and just wanted to get out and meet everybody.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for saying that. So now let's get into the specifics. Your semi-final speech, which I told you in person that I really liked a lot. Who do you love more? Who do you love more? It's connected with me personally because I have two kids, and you have two kids, and you have to like discuss that dynamics that you have going on.
Yeah.
And it was very powerful. It's something that everybody could relate to. But then I want to hear from you. I can almost guess that you probably have other speeches that you could have picked to, but for the semi-final, why did you stick to this?
The semi-final speech was actually the speech that I have used all the way up till district, and I've decided to keep the same speech. The fact is, I don't have another speech prepared, so I went with just one speech, gave my best in the semi, and the result turned out favorable. So that was the moment when reality sank in, and I thought to myself, yep, now I need to write another speech.
Wow. Interesting. So another thing that I also need to say that you were in semifinals one, and I was actually in the room. I heard the speech live. All the speeches were good. All the speakers, for you to go that far, of course, you really have to be good. But after you finished your speech, what did you think about your speech, and what impact did you hope that your speech made after you were done?
I have one goal. Every time when I step on the stage, especially nowadays, I only have one goal, which is I hope I am able to resonate with people in the audience. And how I would determine it is by the end of the speech, if I were to meet anyone, people will come to you and say that, oh, that was a great speech, they love it, and I appreciate that. But I appreciate even more when someone was able to specifically tell me exactly how they could relate to that particular speech. And that it means that there is a genuine connection, that they felt personally connected to the stories. So the only goal that I had was, later on, if anyone would come to me, I hope there's one person, at least one person, who would come and tell me that they felt inspired, they felt connected. And that is a measurement for me, at least, whether a speech is successful.
Wow. I can tell you right away, I felt connected with your speech because I understand the struggle of having kids and having to make sure that you extend yourself to them, and some
Yeah,
lessons that you shared, which we're still going to talk about down the line. But in addition to that, I placed you very high in the semifinals one, but I also placed somebody very close to you, which was the person that gives speech on chess.
I love him, Ritik.
Yeah, because I love chess. I teach my daughters chess. I think the lessons from chess are very practical. But then I was worried how much of connection the judges were going to make to that, because not everybody play chess, right? So I was like, but that's talking about connection. I connected with your speech, and I also connected personally with his speech, because the analogies of using the pieces on the board to give a speech, that was very thoughtful, and I really liked that.
Yeah,
So
he
I
was
wasn't
very
surprised.
intelligent.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised you guys both plays high in semifinals one, which was really good. All right, thank you. So now let's get into more specifics. Your journey into preparing to be a finalist. If you could look back, what is one practical step that you would say, well, this is actually what I did that made me went this far? What would that be?
In terms of mindset, I think the switch that I had this year compared to previous year when I used to contest would be, it wasn't so much focusing on winning. It was really going out there and having fun. My last contest was around 2017, so it has been 8 years, 8 long years that I have not contested. And to come back at this time, I felt like it was more of I need to find a stronger purpose to ground myself. So at the area, at the division, it was more about having that opportunity to speak in front of my children. So they were in the audience. So they were in the audience when I delivered a speech about them. And that makes um, it is so meaningful for me to be able to have that experience. And I told myself that was already a bonus. And I carried that mindset all the way up to semifinals and even to finals as well. It was just having fun because you had the opportunity to speak in front of a crowd and you just want to do your best. So I think that was the biggest mindset shift, a biggest paradigm shift that I had compared to previous contesting experience. In terms of technical, this is the time where I decided to go according to what I'm more comfortable with. Like I am more well aware of my shortcomings as a speaker, and I try to avoid those. For example, I try to avoid long sentences. I try to avoid words that has too many what do you call that? Um, like words that are harder to pronounce.
Hmm.
So I try to use as simple words as possible. So I try to play towards my strength. I try to use very simple rhetorical devices that I am familiar with, like the power of three, callback, um, basic observation and humor, which I felt would
Yeah.
have a higher chance of connecting with the audience. So it was more about finally able to understand um, my style, my personality, my persona, my charisma as a speaker, and wanted to test it out. So that was probably the biggest change in terms of mindset and technical in this time around compared to previous years.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You just mentioned something now, basic observational humor. I did watch your workshop on crafting humorous speech on YouTube. That was really
Yep.
good. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your thoughts. So, still tying it a little bit to this conversation we're having, you had a couple of humors during your speech
Mhm.
that worked well. Did did you know it was going to work very well? And what advice would you give for somebody who is trying to do that, right? Trying to add humor to their speech. What advice would you give?
For me personally, is trying to put ourselves a little bit more in the shoes of the audience. Oftentimes, when we try to write a humor, we write it for ourselves. We find it funny, we find it humorous, and we try too hard. So what I did was in the first few draft, it was more about being a little bit more critical. So I would record my own speech and I would listen to it over and over again. And I put myself in the shoe of an evaluator. Uh, was this punchline impactful? How was the payoff? How was the build up? Did it take too long for the audience to understand what I was trying to deliver? So these are some of the things that I was looking at. And I think along the way, we'll find ways that makes us more comfortable in terms of the tempo, in terms of the rhythm as well. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have people joining us already. This is Dr. Minal Sinha, just saying hello to Oluwaleke and then awesome topics and conversation. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you for being here. Yeah. Please, if you have a question for our guests, please put in the chat and also tell us where you're joining us from and what you're trying to get from this conversation. Yes. Thank you so much. So now that we're on the subject of humor, I was listening to your workshop and you said something that was very interesting to me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
It says humorous speech is a well-structured speech with economical setup, consistent payoff, and moral to bring home. And we're trying to make a distinction between stand-up comedy and humorous speech. I really enjoy that. And in addition to all that, you also mentioned, you saw a slide of some comedians on the slide. I think Russel Peters were there, Trevor Noah, Kevin Hart, and one other person was also on that slide. My question is, what do you think all those people have in common? And I must almost assume that you watch them, right? And when you watch their delivery, what do you think they have that make them distinct from others? What are you looking for to see? For example, when you're looking at Russel Peters, Fluffy, Fluffy's also. I think you said Fluffy was your favorite there in that. So when you're looking at Fluffy, what are you hoping to see? When you look at Trevor Noah, what are you hoping to see? That kind of thing.
So my first few comedians that I watched was Russel Peters, was Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy. I watched both of them very, very close. Michael McIntyre was someone that I watched later on. And Trevor Noah was even the later stage as well. What I've learned in the earlier years was that they know what material works for them. Like they know what materials will be very sensitive, that may have some cultural context, something that you could deliver and some people may not be able to deliver the same. For example, if I were to deliver about my culture, I would be the right person to deliver it because I am part of the culture and I am not trying to insult someone else. So you got to understand where you come from. So that was a lot from Russel Peters during the earlier days. Then I move on to Fluffy because he's just so lovable. He's so likable. There is no way you can dislike him. Even without him saying much, his presence is very welcoming. And I thought to myself, will I be able to come to that stage, to come to that level of attractiveness? And I don't think I could. And what makes Fluffy special was also because his ability to make a lot of sound effect. And ask myself, is this something I could do? And the answer was no. So then I tried and observe. He usually have a very distinctive facial expression, especially when it comes to certain punchline that he wants to deliver. And his timing is very on point. You didn't have to wait too long and it wouldn't be hard for you to understand what he was trying to bring across. Michael McIntyre was very intelligent. He carried himself very, very well. Same with Trevor Noah as well. And the more I listen, the more I understand that there is a difference between a stand-up comedian and a humorous speech. Both you're trying to entertain someone, but both also have something that we could share with each other as well. And I think I am quite fortunate because just within our community, we have a Toastmasters in Brunei who eventually become a stand-up comedian in our country as well. And having him perform at different places and sharing his experience definitely helped. So that gave an deeper understanding for myself on this particular topic. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in it, but I try to find something that works for me. For example, misdirection is something that works very well for me. Callback is something that works very well for me. What won't work well for me would be like slapstick. Sarcasms would be something that wouldn't work well for me because I don't carry that. I'm not witty enough on that as well. And observation would be definitely a strength for myself because in my day-to-day life, I have a very lovely wife and have two children who would always ask me a lot of impromptu questions that I need to think quick. So I would say a lot of training came from them.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. And one of the things that I also like from your workshop is that you introduce pauses. I think your structure introduce pause at the beginning and pauses at the end. And I all really understand that pauses are very important because what's the essence of saying something funny and you're not giving your audience the opportunity to react to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. That's why I really enjoy your workshop. It was really good. Now let's get back to the contest. Mm-hmm. The night before the contest, semifinals and finals, what was going through your mind? Were you hoping that you wake up in the morning? Were you hoping that the date didn't break and you don't have to go and do this? Were you excited?
Okay. The speech was finally crafted the morning before the contest, and at night I had time to finally rehearse for about 5-6 hours to design on some of the movement and also the deliveries as well. By the time everything was done and I was getting ready to rest, it was about 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't rest because the fire alarm went off. So everyone in the hotel had to evacuate. Yeah. And in that hotel, there were 3 finalists. So myself, Mas, who came in first runner-up, and also Mario as well. We had to evacuate from the whole hotel, stood and wait for probably around 30 to 45 minutes until everything has been cleared before we can get back and have our rest. So it was quite a disrupted rest. And in the morning, I was ready to get my breakfast. Every day, the breakfast has been served at 6. But on that contest day, the final, it was weekend. And there was a note that writes, breakfast will be served at 7. And I told myself, of all day, it has to be today. Yeah. But I think if it's more about the emotions or my mentality, it was just about, okay, let's just make sure that we got our rest in and have a mindset that you're trying to look more forward to it. So we had our rehearsal 8 in the morning on Saturday. That rehearsal helped a lot. All the stuff from the world headquarters actually helped. And they were very supportive in all the mic tests, making sure that we understand how the flow runs, what are the sequence. Really, really grateful for them. The most professional, the most well-organized setup that I've ever been part of a contest. So a lot of credit has to go to them. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I have a question on Instagram that I didn't even think about this question. Somebody's asking you this question. And the question is, what are you doing for God in your speeches?
What
are you doing for God in your speeches? Are you a religious person? Are you a religious person? Do you believe in? How do you bring your religious belief into your speech? I think that's what the person's trying to say.
Okay. I try to practice, but I wouldn't say I'm the most religious person. It's a work in progress. But I do believe in one thing. Me and my wife, we talk a lot about this. everything goes back down to the intention. It goes back down to the purpose. And my mindset has always been, if the world stops for 7 minutes and everyone gives you their 7 minutes, do justice to it. Make sure
Yeah.
you share something that will bring value and that will benefit your audience. One of my best friends said it's the best. It's not about you, it's about the audience. Like, what can you help them to achieve? What can you inspire them to take action on? Or how can you help them to have an epiphany
Hmm.
that they could see things from a different perspective? So the outcome has to be audience centric, because at the end of the day, if I just had fun all by myself, I could have a good time, but they may not enjoy or they may not reap the most out of the 7 minutes that they had given to me. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for using the word epiphany. I actually met somebody that was named that name a couple of days ago. And I was excited to
Okay.
meet the person. So thank you for using that. That's the name of a person, by the way. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So still talking about the contest. One of the things that I've thought about, and I think you also mentioned today, is vocal variety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people engage in voice coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your own opinion, how have you been able to work on your vocal variety? Did you engage in voice coaching? Do you sing? How do you ensure that your vocal variety is?
Uh, I enjoy singing, but that doesn't put me as a competent singer. I'm not to a point where I'm tone deaf, but I didn't work much on the vocal variety. If there's anything, I think it's probably more towards the pacing, because of all the components that we understand about vocal variety in terms of pitch, power, pause, and pacing. The two that I focus more on would be the pause and also the pacing. Because in terms of power, sometimes we would have um, aids such as microphones that help us to enhance the volume, the power of it. In terms of pitch, there's nothing much I could do about it as well. So I have been focusing a lot more on the pacing. How fast do I speak? How slow do I speak? Let me give an example. If I were to write a speech and I want to make sure it fits around 7 minutes, the draft would be around maybe about 950 to 1,100 words. So that would be my speaking rate. But if I understand that I need to leave more space for me to deliver with pauses, for example, in my final speech, then that would be at about 750 words. So compared to my semi-final was about 900 plus. But I couldn't do the same for finals, because after a few times of rehearsal, I realized that I have been consistently going over time or close to the time limit. So I had to cut down around 100 words to 150 words so that I have more time for myself to deliver those punchline and to pause for the audience reaction.
Wow, thank you. That's a big lesson because it's very easy to go over the time, and that can lead to disqualification if care is
Mhm.
not taken. All right. So one of the things that also came to my mind that we both have in common is that we speak other language. I speak other language, and I speak
Mhm.
that language even more than I speak English, and that could also be the same for you. And
Yep.
in that context, we have to talk about accents. Right. So when you go
Yep.
internationally to speak, how do you ensure that people still understand you, despite the fact that you might come across as somebody with an accent?
I've I've come to terms with this struggle few years ago, especially when I've decided to venture into training and coaching, right? Especially with training. As a trainer, the most common question that I get asked would be, "Where are you from?" You sounded a little bit more like a Malaysian or sounded a little bit more like a Singaporean because you have a Singlish. They call it a Singapore English, right? And I told them, uh, I can't. really sound like how a person who speaks English as a first language would sound, because my mother tongue would be Mandarin, and there's a difference in terms of the intonations, in terms of the emphasis that we have on single every words. So it took a lot of practice. And because of the nature of my work, I have to consistently communicate in English. I've tried to listen more to podcasts and try to pick up on how people would enunciate certain words,
Yeah.
and try to break it down and pick it up as much as I can. But I wouldn't go as far as to change the way that I speak, because then it wouldn't be myself already. I felt like part of me, my character, would be diminished if I were to try to become someone else. So the more reasonable things for me to work on would be the pacing, because if I have certain accent, or if I have certain um, pronunciations that is harder for someone else to pick up, I just have to slow down a little bit so that they would have time to receive what I have to say. Yeah, so that is how I try to work on the accent side of things. Yeah.
Good, good. Thank you for sharing that. We have a comment from Dr. Minal here. I'm curious to learn where I can learn from those frameworks, pitch, pause, punchline. So, Dr. Minal, I can put the link in the recording. When I repost the recording for this session, I will put the link so you can just go directly to click on the workshop. It's a workshop that was given by our guest, which I recommend people should listen to. I did learn, I see things very differently. I've given a workshop on humor before at my district, but this one make me learn and see things in a different way. So I would recommend you watch it, and I'm going to be putting the link in the repost of this recording. So look out for that. Thank you. All right, so still talking about your public speaking journey. One of the things that we do in Toastmasters that makes us to get better is feedback, evaluation. And I can imagine that you must have received a ton of that in your lifetime. Which one of them would you consider really valuable that has shaped who you have become as a public speaker?
My first mentor in Toastmaster, Dell. His name is Dell. He was being assigned as my mentor when I joined Toastmaster. In the first two speeches that I delivered, he was kind enough to share with me some pointers on how to structure a speech, and it was very motivational. It was quite motivating. Then few years passed, and he left Toastmasters. I think it was around 2018 or 2019 when he visited the club again, and he saw me deliver a speech. I think it was a speech, most likely. I can't remember what I did, whether it was a speech or evaluation. And he said this very specific comment, this specific, very, very specific feedback, which I still keep it to heart today. He said, "Alan, now I understand that you have improved, but if you want people to take you more seriously from this point onwards, you have to learn how to pronounce your word better. You have to learn how to take the language even more seriously, because in Toastmasters, people can be more supportive, but you now venturing into a trainer, you got to understand that in corporates, you may need to up your game." So it was along that line of a very critical and yet constructive feedback. And I remember me keeping that feedback even until today. Like every single time, if I have an opportunity to improve on whether it is the way that I speak or pronounce certain words, I will try and do so. So if anyone come to me and say, "Alan, you speak too fast," I will try to remind myself, okay, slow down a bit. or someone would come to me and say, Alan, you have swallowed the word. I couldn't hear what you say. So I become more conscious of what I have to deliver. Like even right now, some of the words where there are a lot more syllable, I have to purposely slow down a little bit because I want to make sure that my audience understand what I wanted to deliver.
Wow, that's very powerful. Thank you for saying that. Because I also need to be aware of these coming from Nigeria. The first thing that I understand, that I observe, that I speak very differently, I sound very differently, and of course, that part of you sounding differently and people trying to understand, are you think we are here to joke? That's why you're sounding this way, that kind of thing, which is something that are you not taking this seriously? That's
Yep.
it's more like, yeah, you're trying to do it intentionally, but then over time, I think people just understand, well, yeah, people don't, you don't go to Walmart to buy an accent, right? You just, just discover you have one. Thank you so much. So just a quick comment on the humor that you use in your speech. The first one, you compared ordering some food items to having kids, right? We place an order for a second child. That goes it. That received immediate reaction because because you place order for food, but people are like, yeah, you place an order for that. That was really good. Then you also said, can I return my order? People also reacted to that because that was humor that was very effective. So still talking about the discussion here, now that you won the third place, what is going on in your mind? What are you thinking about now?
I think that is a very apt question, especially for today. I just have a quick glance at the date. It is almost, today will be 1 month from the finals. Over the last 4 weeks, a lot of things had happened, but most of it evolved around being invited to share the journey and the experience with other fellow Toastmasters. And I think it is, I would say, fulfilling your role and responsibility as a finalist. What more to say? Being placed. Few things. Number one, members around my district, members at my club. They are some of them who suddenly feel very motivated because they have seen me since I first joined Toastmasters, and that was like 12 years ago. So witnessing my journey, I think it gave them some more hope, a little bit more courage to dream that they can give it a shot, give it a try. And if I'm able to go around and share a little bit more about my journey, I think I may be able to reach out to people who resonate with my younger self or who currently are in the same path or similar path as myself earlier years, whether they are trying to improve on their public speaking skill or whether they have been contesting and yet still waiting for that breakthrough, or people who are on the verge of giving up. I hope I give them more reason to keep dreaming, right? Give them more reasons to keep working on it. I think that would be how I see the opportunity that I have right now, the positions that I'm very blessed to be in right now, to inspire more people, because the credibility, the ethos are there at this moment right now. So why not? Might as well give it to the full use. And this brings back the question that we had earlier on from one of the audience from Instagram, right? About the purpose, the intention. During the contest, it was just giving that positive message, right? Giving them that something to look out for. Now that you're in this position, continue to inspire more people. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, Kathleen. We're glad you're here. Please comment in the section where you're joining us from. If you have questions for our guests, you can also put your question in the comment section, and I will ask our guest. Still in line with that, the follow-up question, somebody asks you, what is your mission in life? That's another question that came up. That's from the same person that asked earlier. So what would you say about that?
I just want to make the world a better place.
Yep.
I just want to make the world a better place for people to work in, for people to live in. And, as cliche as it may sound, right? I just want to leave the world a better place than when I first found it or when I first came. And a lot of it has to do with legacy. Like, I see myself having very, very limited time. And I have family members that I want them to be proud of. I have people that I want to make sure that I set as a good example, especially to my children. So to me, if I'm able to do one more good thing, hopefully it will spread more positivities and encourage more people to move towards that direction. Yeah, just to make the world a better place.
Good. Thank you. So this comment is from my high school association from Nigeria. They joined in and they said, it is unfortunate that a lot of us do not pay attention to the art of public speaking until we are given the microphone. Well done, Alan. All right, so people are recognizing you from all over the world. That's the influence that you talked about. And the question is, how are we going to use this? How are you going to use this? Because you are the world champion to make the world a better place. Thank you so much for being here. This starts from here, saying yes to this kind of invitation and reaching more people. And so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation as well.
Thank you. We have a question for you from our guest. What made Alan start on this journey? That's from Dr. Manal.
Thank you, Dr. Manal, for your question. If we talk about contesting journey, I think I have to go back to 2013. That was the year that I joined Toastmasters, and around November, I think, would be the first contest that I've joined. That would be an speech evaluation contest. At that time, it was more about challenging myself and giving myself an opportunity to see how far have I improved in terms of a Toastmasters journey. Over the next 2 to 3 years, it has been about self-development, trying to get to a point where I'll be put on a stage to challenge my competency. So I see that as a milestone, as a benchmark, or as a kind of like a measurement of my improvement. But since then, I've took up a little bit more role I took out a lot more leadership role, and that's why I've stepped away from contests. This year, it was just the right timing. I have one of my mentee, I've been mentoring her for the last 1 year plus, and she has been improving a lot in terms of contests, in Toastmasters, and she was very encouraging as well, trying to get me to, challenge myself. And I remember the day that I told her I decided to pull out from the contest, she actually lectured me for about 20 minutes. Not really lecture, but the words that I've been using. She was reminding me about how I shared with her the true intention of competing. It is not about the winning, but about the journey of personal growth and development. And all those words that I've shared with her was being used against me in a nice way. And was why I need to go out. And of course, when I competed during my earlier years, my daughter was only 2 years old and my son was not born yet. So they didn't have the chance to really see me speak on the stage. And my daughter is 11 years old right now. And over the last 2 to 3 years, she has started to move into some competition, whether it is in swimming or whether it is in any kind of school activities. Sometimes when our children didn't get the result that they want, they would feel a little bit more demotivated, right? So as a father, of course, I would try to give her words of affirmations and words of encouragement. But I felt like, what if I could show her that, it is not really about succeeding or failing, but enjoying through the journey. And that was all I had in mind. So this time around, the intention, the motivation, the reasons are way different from previous years. This time is really about having fun, inspiring others, and just uh, making the most out of it.
Wow, thank you so much for asking the question, Dr. Mina, and thank you for answering the question, our guest Alan. One thing I really have to ask is that, because I know public speaking is a journey. If you can look back, what is one mistake that you made at the beginning of your public speaking journey that you know for sure that you're going to avoid for the rest of your public speaking journey?
Trying to be someone else.
Oh,
I think there's a difference between being inspired by others and trying to mimic, trying to copy, trying to be them. When someone speaks so eloquently, right, we try to speak the way that they present. We try to sound like them. We try to be like them. We try to think like them. We try to share the points like them. And I think it's a very dangerous place to go to because you will lose yourself. You will lose your authenticity and you will lose what truly matters to you. I think it's okay to be inspired by others, but we must try and do a little bit more self-reflection, especially when we want to speak or when we want to present. We must deliver something that we personally truly believe in. And it is not just because it sounded nice or because we like this quote or maybe this quote is quite famous, so I just want to use the quote for the sake of using it. So that was I would say, my learning from my earlier years, trying to pick up bits and pieces over there and kind of use it as mine. It is part of the learning process, but I think I overdid it. So I couldn't pinpoint where my direction should be because people will be giving you feedback saying that you should do this, you should do that. And I didn't put enough effort to think which of the feedback would be something that I could work on, and which of the feedback I could just hear it and not necessarily take action on it.
wow, thank you for sharing that. So one thing that I also really want to know, since we know that culture is a big part of what we experience and the way we live our life. So how did your own culture of the country that you came from impact your journey through Toastmasters in terms of your way of life and other things?
So I come from Brunei. Brunei is a country that is on the island of Borneo, somewhere around in the middle of Southeast Asia. We have in this country, we it's very peaceful, and we have very nice people around us. People who are more soft spoken. Majority of people that I dealt with or I work with are quite supportive, quite encouraging in one way, and that actually helps. Cultural wise, everyone practice as much as they could gratitude. They try to be appreciative of what they have. And from my own personal background, um, we talk a lot more about families, trying to give back, um, trying to, this core values of respect, core value of loyalty. So that definitely help in a way because it shapes the way that you think and shapes the way that you see um, different perspective in life. And if we're able to use it as part of our tools or part of our arsenal, especially as a speaker, we would be a little bit more distinctive compared to others.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Very powerful. So we have question from my high school association. Somebody's asking this question. Looking at the roadmap of public speaking, what is the first step to take in learning the art of public speaking? For somebody who's just beginning, what would you recommend for them?
if I were to look at it right now, assuming that I have a chance to speak to my younger self, I would tell a younger Alan, do fast, fail fast, but learn faster. So public speaking is a skill that you could really improve if you put in the hours. You're going to practice it. A lot of times, people that I've known, they think about improving public speaking, and you can't really improve by thinking. You can spend time thinking about how you could structure a sentence. You could spend time writing better, but speaking itself is a skill. It's like a muscle memory, right? You have to continuously put in the hours, put in the work so that it becomes more natural. So I am not rejecting the idea of thinking or writing, but I'm promoting more on taking action. So instead of worrying about, do I sound good? Would I be able to share something of value? I think just do it first. Just try it. Try fast, do fast, and then you will fail fast. Because fail fast means that you get a feedback, and then you learn faster. So every single time you learn from your delivery, it is more real time, and you're able to pinpoint exactly what can you do better with the next presentation or with the next speech. And that is also the reason why Toastmasters become so attractive, because the stakes are lower. You're able to try out a few things without really hurting like your
Yeah,
professional career. Like I can't imagine myself trying things with my client, right? Because if I were to say the wrong thing, that could jeopardize my career. But in Toastmasters setting, you feel safe because it's a place that allows you to try, fail safely, and also receive feedback to improve on it.
good, good. Wow, thank you for sharing that. So receiving feedback comes with lessons, and one of the things that I really like from your speeches is lessons, right? From your semifinals, you said giving kids what they need most in a way that fits best, being present, not equality but fairness. That was very powerful from your speech. Then you also talked about keep dreaming in your final speech, the teenage wild dreams. Looking at you make me remember my teenage days and things like that. Looking around, seeing my friends being successful. That was very emotional. Everybody could connect with that. When we are grateful to life, life will find a way to reward us. Then you also said in your that speech, people should excuse me, keep dreaming, but then know that some of those dreams may not come to pass. And even if they don't come to pass, that's not a reason not to dream. And that's why your speech was so powerful and connected with the audience, your final speech, and together with all the humor that you added to that. Is there any other life lessons? Because it seems that you can teach us some workshop on life lessons. Is there any other life lesson you also want to share with us?
I wouldn't say life lesson, but I do enjoy keeping I would say idea banks, where sometimes you have some thoughts that you could just write it down. So I keep it in my phone. But there are a few particular ones that I actually write it on my whiteboard at the office. One of the first things that I've written up was along the lines of, the world wouldn't lose anything without you, but it definitely can be a better place because of you. I think it's a very important thing to remind ourselves that we don't overplay our importance, but do not undermine what we could do, especially bringing positivities to our life and others' life as well, right? And this was inspired through one movie that I love, which was Coach Carter, where he constantly asks one of his players about what's your greatest fear. And it's actually a quote from Marianne Williamson, right? About your greatest fear is not you being insufficient or inadequate, your greatest fear is actually you are capable way beyond lights, something along that line. So you playing small
Yeah.
doesn't mean that others would play small as well, but you allowing yourself to be liberated and glow, you would be able to inspire others to do so, something along that line. So that really allows me to think and encourage me to dream a little bit bigger. Like, is there something else that I could do? um, do I need to wait until I am of certain achievements or certain status or certain recognitions before I can do good? But no, I mean, you can do good all the way. And even if you don't achieve anything, the good deeds that you have planted, I think it will somehow or rather inspire people around you. So that was the first thing that I wrote on my whiteboard. Like, the world won't lose anything because of your loss, but you the world can definitely be a better place because of you. Second thing that I wrote was from last year. I don't know, by chance I came across this term. It's called mudita, Mudita, and I think it's a word from Sanskrit. There's no exact translations to English, but it kind of brought out the meaning of being sincerely and genuinely happy for someone else's success. Like
Mm.
sometimes when we see people doing way better than us, jealousy may comes in, and we may feel like, of course, they deserve to be more successful because they have better opportunity. But we can't take away the effort that they have put in. I think it's better to appreciate that, look at it from point of view of inspiration, make it as a source of inspiration for us to somehow become better. Like, these two things are very close to me, so it has always been on my whiteboard, and try to remind myself every day of it.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Our guest, please let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. And also, if you have any life lesson that you've learned that you want to share with us, put in the chat. We'd love to learn from you. Why not? We're all here to learn. So, still talking about learning,
Mhm.
based on all these experiences that you had during the contest, before the contest, and after the contest now, people reaching out to you and things like that. Is there any new thing that you've learned about yourself? Any new awareness about yourself that you'd like to share?
If it's about the speech, the moment I rewatch the speech, I've taken down the notes. I need to work on my energy a little bit more. I need to work a little bit more on my facial expression, be a little bit more distinctive, and not just having one kind of facial expression because it's a bit too universal. I need to improve a little bit on my grammar because there were some words or language that was less appropriate. So there was a lot of room for improvement as a speaker. But I would say the biggest takeaway that I had would be uh, acceptance. Acceptance. We always have this our own fair share of imposter syndrome. Like, we feel like we are, someone else is always better than us, and we try to defer um, giving recommendations or giving suggestions or giving feedback because we don't think we are good enough. And I have that fair share as well, because all this while, even as a trainer, right, sometimes you question, who am I to train people who are way more experienced than me? um, Regardless of the feedback has been very positive, there's still a little bit of lack of assurance. So this journey itself, especially the post contest, because at quarterfinals you would have been placed in a very random pool to be judged by very random people around the world, so you don't know who they are, where they are from. And getting through quarterfinals means that you have been accepted once by everybody already.
Yeah.
And going through semifinals again with another set of judges, you got through it again. So you have been accepted twice. Then when it comes to the final, getting placed, you have been accepted three times. And I think that was the biggest takeaway that I had, which was I need to be a little bit more assured of myself. Of course, I there's a lot of room for improvement for me. There is things that I could work on, things that I'm lacking in, but I cannot take away the things that I have demonstrated as a strength or demonstrated as a better effort or better competency compared to previous years. So I have definitely become better, whether as a person or whether as a speaker or as a trainer as well. So that was the biggest takeaway post training.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we have one of our participants here, Dr. Minal. She's saying, have you ever tried the Udly or any other AI guided improvements? Do you have any experience on that?
No, I have not. I heard of Udly, but I have not tried that yet. Probably I'll have a look at that. Thank you for the recommendation, Dr. Minam.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. But still, moving ahead, we're wrapping up very soon. I promise you, it's not going to take you too long. Now that I know that part of who we are will always come out when we speak, our personality. So for you, how has your personality impacted your public speaking journey? Who you are naturally, the way you interact with people, how has that impacted your delivery of speech?
I think there's no surprise that the first year of my Toastmaster, 80% of my speeches, table topics, have been around the topic of my wife and my marriage, because that was a core part of my life. And there's no it's not a coincidence that my semi-final speech has been about my children, and then my final speech was about my wife came into play, my children came to play, and that was also the first time that I brought my father and my mother into a speech. I've never included them in my speech. And I think as we grow as an individual, the more we understand ourselves, the more we're able to tap onto our emotions. We are able to tap into our core value. One of the lines that I've shared about my father and my mother meant a lot to me, especially the introductions about me growing up watching basketball with my father. Like basketball is an important thing between me and my father. That is the bond that we have, because he's a quiet person. We don't share much, but we played against each other until I was like 15, 16. With my mom, we don't have we are not to a point where we're so close. We share, we express our love for each other very openly. I mean, it could be cultural context and all this as well. And this year, when I talk about me texting my mother, telling her that I appreciate her for bringing me to this world, it was a true story. It was the first time that I actually thanked her, like sending her text message to thank her. And I think had I not accepted that part of me or tried to tap into that part of my life, I wouldn't be able to find the courage to truly deliver it, because it would come out lacking in sincerity. So the more I grow as an individual, the better speaker I could be. I think I used to tell people that, you don't think about becoming a better speaker first. Think about becoming a better person, and then you become a better speaker.
Wow, thank you. That's very powerful. Be a better person first, then you can be a better speaker. So horrible people cannot be a good speaker. Is that what you're saying? So still going on this journey, why do you think people do not bring the mood back up when they give very emotional speech? Once in a while, I see people do this, and I just wonder. I want to hear your opinion. Why people just keep you're sinking yourself and you're sinking the audience at the same time? Why do people do this? Why do you think people do this?
Probably it's a misconception. That's what I choose to believe, that people would understand your message if you bring them to very, very low emotion, sadness. You want to deliver a very touching moments, and you feel like getting into that emotional cave is very important. But I feel otherwise. There's always a pain and pleasure. There's always a positive, negative emotion. not everyone would receive. Um, Not everyone is readily to receive a lot of message when they're at their lowest time. Because I would imagine myself, if I'm very down right now and I'm very emotional, you may give me the best advice, but it may fall on deaf ears. But if I am more uplifted, I'm more open to suggestions. And that is the exact reason why it's only a very brief moment in my speech that I went deep down when I asked the three most important questions. And right after that, I felt like I cannot keep my audience emotion then and then. Because even for myself, if I continuously push it, it will be hard for me to come back and deliver my message. Uh, Probably two times during my rehearsal, when I asked that three question, I wasn't able to control my emotion well, and I went way off. I became too emotional. I was holding back my tears already, and my voice would have changed. And during the contest itself, I told myself, I got to be very, very careful. It's good to touch, and then I got to lift everybody up again.
Then you got to climb again, right? I think that's
Yep.
what people forget to do, to climb. And humor is a very good way to climb that emotion up. And I think you said your wife told you that you can be a missioner, but make sure those tears don't drop, right?
Yep. Exactly. That
That's
has
very
been the
powerful.
advice that she's been given me. Yep. I listened to her advice on this.
So still, we're wrapping up. Coming to the end. Do you
Mhm.
think anybody can win the world champion of public speaking?
If I say everyone could win, then I think that may be not the entire truth. I think the opportunity is there. I think the opportunity is there for everyone, but it is something. It is something for individuals who not just only want it, but willing to put in the work and is humble enough to seek feedback to grow. I think these are probably the common traits that I've seen from people who continuously join contests and they're able to eventually come out as winners or even as champion as well. I had the opportunity to speak to Sabi and even Mars as well. They are people who have been contesting, and despite having so many years under their belt, they're still very humble in receiving feedback. And I felt like that is the spirit that we should be looking at. I wouldn't want to say that anybody could win because it kind of take away all the effort that the rest have put in. So the intention must be there. Like, I want to be in that position, but one thing is not enough. We're gonna take action to put in the effort and yet still be willing to accept feedback that help us to grow. So humility plays a huge part in it, because when we stop listening to others for feedback, I think that's where ego may come into place and arrogance could create our own downfall.
Wow, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So that means that some hard work and very intentionality is required for that, and
Mhm,
not everybody is ready. Apparently, not everybody is ready to put in that kind of level of work. So I
mhm.
understand what you mean. So for you, in case you decide to enter the international speech again, what would you do differently?
Mm, I think definitely I'll if I ever would join again, I want to see a more polished speaker. I want to challenge myself in terms of I want to see improvement in my language. I want to see improvement in my delivery in terms like what I mentioned just now, facial expression. I want to have that more pull, the gravitas to bring people in. so that I can deliver my message with more impact. Like I wish if I have the opportunity to stand on the stage again, I want to see a better version of myself. Yeah.
Wow, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And how has Toastmaster changed the way you see the world?
Wow. Big time. I've Toastmasters, I think Toastmasters taught me a lot of lessons in life. But easily the biggest lesson that I've gotten from Toastmasters is not about presentation, it's not about public speaking, it's not about critical thinking, it's not any of those. It is how powerful a constructive feedback can help someone grow. Like we may have this misconceptions about people not willing to listen to advisors, or there isn't anyone who is able to guide ourselves. But I don't think that is the whole truth.
Yeah.
People are willing to learn if we're able to deliver feedback to them in a way that resonates with them and connect with them. Sometimes we may have the right message or the right suggestions,
Yeah.
but we don't have the right method or right channel to communicate. And I felt like it's such a waste of opportunity, because then and then, if we had a better communication, better feedback, better evaluations, more positive languaging, two people or even more people will benefit. The person who is able to give a better feedback would benefit because they will be able to help more people. The person who received the feedback would definitely grow as an individual. And because of them, the community around them would also be elevated as well. So that to me is the core of what I've learned from Toastmasters, the ability to really inspire others, not just only through speeches, but through feedback.
Wow. Yeah, feedback. Feedback is love. That's what we used to say. Feedback is love. It's one of the ways to share love, but then it's a tough love that people can
Yeah,
get angry about. that's
definitely.
that's it. Going to the end, I promise you, we're going to the end. One of the
Mm.
things I really want to know is that what do you do outside of Toastmasters that have helped your public speaking?
A lot of it has to do with my professional. So I am a trainer. So constantly, like on a day-to-day basis, I have to train people on communication. So specifically on not really on public speaking, but more on conversing, communication, conflict management has been one of the area that I focus on. Critical thinking. So everything is all about structuring our thoughts and articulating in a way that people could understand. So by being in the training industry, that allows me to put in extra hours of real life practice with people that I do not know prior to my training. So I have to learn how to build quick rapport, build deep relationship with them from the get-go. So that definitely helps me. Outside of that, being a parent helped me as well. Being a husband helped me as well. That's where the ability to think on the spot and use positive languaging become very, very important. Every single time my wife asks me about how's the food, how do I feel about certain dress, and whether anything different about her today, I can be very critical and try to analyze it. When my children come to me asking for affirmations, especially about their schoolwork, I have to find a way to share with them, but not sound too demotivating, because like
Mhm.
parenting be more uplifting. I feel like I could play the role of a father. Like I could help them to become a better person if I can help them to see the world in a more positive manner. I'm still learning. I'm still learning to become a better son, a better husband, and a better father. But those opportunity with my family, and from the professional career as well, I think that definitely helped me to become a better communicator.
Good, good. Based on your training, your experience in training, you talked about productivity. You have experience in doing productivity. Any practical suggestion on how a team can increase their productivity based on your experience?
Time audit. I always go back to time audit because working in a team, the most common, I wouldn't say argument, but the most commonly seen reasons for conflict or the rise of a conflict would come from, I'm too busy, I don't have time, there's too much work. And time audit is the simplest, most straightforward, direct approach to, do we really need more time, or we need a better monitoring of the time spent? And usually from that quick exercise, you realize that you don't need 25 hours a day. You just need to be able to identify where you spend your time and how you could maximize the available time on your hand. I believe that we don't need to focus 24 hours a day. If we could really put in our work and focus for 2 to 3 hours, we'll be more productive than average. Most people out there already, because 3 hours can get you done a lot of things.
Wow, good. Last practical question. You also have experience in strategic management.
Mm.
Any big lesson you've learned from strategic management?
Yep. Planning is important, but cascading the informations, cascading our plan to our team is even more important, because a lot of time people spend a lot of money and investments on planning, and they draft out a 3 years plan or a 5 years plan, and it ended up on the shelf. And it's not because that they don't have the capabilities to deliver it, but usually it's due to the lack of ability to cascade those plans into simple action and really encouraging the team to execute on it. So by the time that we revisit our plan, it could be 1 to 2 years into the existing 5 years plan already, and it's not very motivating. It's not very encouraging, because we will recognize that how far we are behind from the initial plan, and what are we going to do by then. So planning is important, but cascading is even more important. But at the end of the day, we still want to make sure that there is execution, there's action, because when action comes into play, we'll be able to complete the full cycle to know that whether our planning actually works.
Good, good. All right. Any last thoughts for our guests? How can they be in contact with you? What are the services that you offer and things like that?
Thank you. I'm approachable. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, email as well. By any means, just connect with me. I will definitely do my best to get back to you. If you have any questions or you would like to know more about building your own team, especially a very dynamic team, understanding how you could improve your confidence and competence and charisma in terms of communication, those are the areas that I will be able to share with you some ideas on how to achieve your own personal breakthrough. And on that note, I think the ability to communicate in this era is getting more and more important, especially when there's a lot of emphasis on AIs and all this as well, right? Which I personally love having it. But what makes us really unique is our ability to think very critically, able to differentiate between informations and come up with a very unique creative solutions while communicating it to our team. These are the things that can't be really replaced by AI, but it can help us to AI can help to enhance the time that we need to get all this through. So why not, in this era of AI driven, we still keep the core, which is the core of a human being in terms of interpersonal communication. So that's my thought.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for joining, Alan. Thank you for joining our guests. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe so that we can reach more people. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking us some time. This time of the day, you're in the night where you're supposed to be sleeping, but you decided to say yes to this invitation. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Hope I can get to talk to you again at some point again. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Alan.
And thank you for your invitation as well.
All right. Thank you. Bye.